Hi, everyone. Welcome to our LIS503 Bibliometrics presentation by Shay, Merker, Cassandra, Norris, and Candie, Tanaka. So let's get started. Bibliometrics is the mathematical analysis of written information resources such as books, articles, or publications. Often, bibliometrics is used to refer to only the statistical analysis of bibliographies, but it can also be an umbrella term. Related terms include librometrics for analysis of library information, infometrics for meta-analysis of information, and scientometrics for analysis of writing in scientific fields. Bibliometrics comes from the positivist scientific thinking of the 19th century. Francis Campbell's 1896, The Theory of National and International Bibliography, is one of the earliest works that included mathematical analysis of subject matter. The term statistical bibliography was coined by Edward Wyndham Hone in 1922 in a lectures on how statistics can help with studying scientific knowledge. These lectures were published as statistical bibliography in relation to the growth of modern civilization. In 1969, Alan Pritchard created the term bibliometrics to reflect and showcase the relationship of the field with the pre-existing fields of biometrics, econometrics, and scientometrics. Bibliometrics has grown and become more accessible with advances in technology and internet access. However, it still remains grounded in scientific thought. In bibliometric analysis, the authors of articles or publications and citations are analyzed to measure the outcomes of individual or research teams, institutions, and countries, and to distinguish national or international networks. In this way, new advances in science and technology are able to be formulated and identified. Bibliometric analysis allows researchers to keep track of the output or the impact of research and literature, which can help in promotion and tenure, as well as funding and obtaining grants. In addition, calculations such as the number of times works have been cited are documented, which can help researchers figure out what written work should be published. In this way, one can measure the impact an article has on the rest of literature. Citation databases and metric tools are used to not only measure the number of times an article has been cited, but also to identify and study the most significant research in literature, gather a list of references that authors of an article have used, and to find similar works to an article. With the growth of the internet, new associated fields have grown, including webometrics, also known as cybermetrics, which studies the quantitative aspects of websites, and altmetrics, which uses alternative data sources both to traditional bibliometrics and standard webometrics, like social media posts, downloads, and shares. One of the most common types of citation analysis is bibliometrics. There are three different types. Direct citation, which establishes the relationship between documents and the researchers who use them. Bibliographic coupling, where the reference lists of two documents share one or more of the same cited documents. And co-citation, which occurs when two citations are cited together. The following are questions that can help researchers conduct citation analysis. Can the available data address the question? What are the written works publication types, field definitions, and years of data? Are you using whole or fractional counting? Does the data have to be edited to remove certain artifacts? Can you compare like with like? Are you able to measure relatively and not in absolute counts? Are you able to conduct multiple measures? Are you able to recognize if citation data has been skewed? Is the data collected relevant to the question? Are the results reasonable?
Next, we're going to talk about implementation. Bibliometrics can be put into practice in several ways for LIS research. One easy-to-use tool involving bibliometrics is Web of Science, which combines access to academic journals with a citation tracking system and inbuilt author-level citation metrics. Web of Science requires a paid subscription, and it excludes many journals on purpose. For original bibliometric research, there are many tools available for both analysis and display, including open source applications and software compatible with proprietary software. The American Library Association recommends the free open source programming language R for bibliometrics. This language is commonly used by a wide variety of quantitative fields, so it's relatively easy to learn and access. Next up is the applications of bibliometrics. One, it improves the bibliographic control of literature. It also identifies a core literature, especially journals. It's good for classifying a literature, tracing the spread of ideas and growth of a literature. It also helps to design more economic information systems and networks. It improves the efficiency of information handling services and helps us to predict publishing trends. It describes patterns of book use by patrons, as well as developing and evaluating library collections. And finally, it's useful for evaluating journal performance. Some of the pros of bibliometrics are that it's a quantitative method of research, so some see it as being objective. It's important to importance of research work. It's inexpensive to produce and use. It's useful for research funding and professional documentation. It doesn't take much time to put together, and it's scalable, so it's easy to work with different sample sets of different sizes. It works with many different types of data, including social media. It showcases written interactions that might be difficult to visualize. It helps to condense trends into readable metrics and graphs. And finally, recorded data can be reinterpreted, making results replicable. Some of the cons of bibliometrics are that it's not always a good indicator of the quality of articles. Articles could be cited but for a lot of negative reasons. Metrics can also be gamed. Authors could skew writing so that articles are cited more. Sometimes there's bias involved, and that's like a controlled vocabulary. It's also based on quantitative results only. Co-authored, so practitioner and academic articles sometimes have a greater impact than single-authored articles. Articles from different disciplines shouldn't be compared with each other either. And some articles may never get mentioned. And finally, sometimes there's problems with accessibility. In conclusion, bibliometrics is a quantitative method of assessing the work of authors that publish, but there are limitations to using it, as we previously mentioned. There are some new trends that Wang discusses that may make the use of this research methodology more inclusive and equitable. Some of the new trends are altmetrics and PlumX. They are alternative metrics that can be used in conjunction with standard metrics. These two measures, they measure online user interactions like downloads, views, and social sharing, etc. Sometimes scores for these two tools are included on publishers' websites. There's also bibliometrics and responsive research evaluation, and that's part of a movement where they're talking more about ethical use of traditional-based citation metrics. There are 3 milestones under this umbrella. One of them is called DORA, which is Declaration of Research Assessment. It advocates for using holistic approaches that are not only journal impact measurements for promotions, funding, and opportunities. The Leiden Manifesto has a 10-step guide for research evaluation and performance that is more equitable. And finally, the Hiroshima Statement, which INORMS, the International Network of Research Management Societies, has 5 basic principles for best practice. And then one of the last new trends that's coming up is AI and machine learning. These are new tools used for accessing open online collections to gather citation information. They can then place them into different categories based on the context. In the future, in addition to more technical tools such as AI and machine learning, many universities and funding organizations will also require narratives that are evidence-based to prove that research has made some social impact. And finally, we have a couple questions on a slide for you. Number 1 is, would bibliometrics be a form of research that you might use? And if so, how would you balance out the data with a more equitable approach and less bias? And finally, the last question is, most bibliometrics studies focus on academic journals. What other data sets can you use working with bibliometric methods? Thank you for watching our slide presentation today, and we look forward to our discussion around bibliometrics.